those bonds that we built and those things that we did in that school made us who we are today. We would not be the people we are. I certainly would not be the person I am today. The perseverance that I learned from being in that school, the fortitude that I learned from being in that school, the fact that, life will knock you down. Life will teach you lessons, and they're not all good lessons. But to be able to stand back up and to be able to move yourself forward is something that was learned in that school. So those are life lessons that you will never take away from people. So that is the true power of martial arts, and your father was able to capture that and give that to all of us.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. I am your host, Master Joseph Lupo Jr., and my guest tonight. There's going to be a lot of giggling going on tonight. I'm just letting you know.
It might be a little giggling.
A lot of it. But we'll let everyone in on every inside joke that happens. My guest tonight is Master Alana Bari. A previous guest, one of my first guests, was Master John Rodriguez. And that was a really cool episode because we were able to bring it back, to a period of time in my father's school in the early days. But what's great about tonight is you're actually a generation before John Rodriguez. You were at my father's school from the jump, so to say.
Before it opened.
Before it even opened.
I put the O in OG.
Right.
Student number 5 at your father's
There you go. You see, and we all had numbers.
That's right.
And I was 11 years old, and I was in that school every single day. I wasn't even allowed to take your class.
No,
I was on the side. I could only take the kids' class.
That's right.
And I was watching all you guys every single day. So we have this bond that I have a big sister. But
my little sister.
Yes, we're like, how can I put it? We're Irish twins. We're only 11 months apart. So when people bring up Jenny, I never really look at her as like my big sister. So because we're so close in age. When I think of big sister, especially in the Taekwondo school, I always thought of you. Because that's how we were raised. So we have that bond, we have that connection.
Oh, yeah.
But that connection and bond, and we're going to get into it tonight. Was basically blood, sweat, and a lot of tears.
A lot of tears. That
was how can I put it? That was a period of time that's not around anymore.
No. You get arrested now.
100%.
You get arrested now. These kids go through what we went through.
Yeah,
it's not possible.
No, they're
not possible.
No, they're not made like that anymore. No way. On that, we're gonna.
We weren't even made like that.
Salute. Pick it up.
Yeah, that was a lesson for all of us back in the day. We did so many things that brought us so close together. We lived in that school. Your father was everyone's father. I have 2 male role models in my life, and my dad and your dad, and they formed who I am today.
Yeah.
I would not be who I am today without those 2 people, and your dad was a huge part of that. Huge part of that.
A lot of tough love.
Ooh, tough love. You got it worse though, man.
No, we'll get into that. But with that being said, a word from our sponsor, Mr. Joe Ferrone of Whitestone Realty. This episode of A Black Belt Way of Life is brought to you by Mr. Joseph Ferrone of Whitestone Realty. For all your real estate needs, both commercial and residential, don't hesitate to reach out to Mr. Joseph Ferrone. All his information is in the show notes. To our apparel company, our official apparel company, Best Martial Arts Muto USA. For all your martial arts needs, check them out. Their info is in the show notes. And a quick shout out to KickFit. Nice shoe, right?
These things are fresh. I like them.
Fresh. I
They're
like
very
it.
nice.
I like it. It's a beautiful, beautiful shoe. Check it out. Info is in the show notes. Promo code BBWOL for a nice little discount. Discounts are much needed these days. We need discounts everywhere. It's tough out on those streets. So check that out. BBWOL at checkout. Info is in the show notes.
Nice.
Master Alana.
Oof.
I love saying that.
Man.
I love saying
Such
that.
a new thing
that,
for me,
that means a lot to me saying that. So we touched upon it a little bit. And here at A Black Belt Way of Life, we're all about the journey. We're all about how it started. And I love hearing from guests because you came into my father's school a green belt.
Correct.
I got a good memory.
Yes.
You came in as a green belt already. So already you had a start in martial arts. Talk to us a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. And talk to us about what inspired you to do martial arts.
So I'll start with the inspiration.
Yeah.
When I was 10 years old, a
couple of years ago,
my parents sent my brother and I to martial arts because their opinion of it was, we're not going to be there to protect you your whole life. So you need to be able to protect yourself. So they sent us to martial arts. Mm-hmm. So this was in New Jersey. And I remember at the time, it was also a Master Lee who was our instructor. And he was a very hard man. Like so when we started doing that, we were getting beat up then. So, but I stuck with it because there was something about it that just drew me. Like I had a passion for it immediately. Mm-hmm. Like my brother stopped going, but I kept going. And there was just something about the discipline, something about pushing yourself to the next level, something about making your body do things it doesn't want to do, right? And sticking with that. So when we moved to back to New York, I should say, I wanted to go to a school that had instilled that same sort of rigor and that same sort of discipline and that same sort of, get your butt beat if you didn't do the right thing. So when my father and I walked past the school, your dad was there. He was putting the floor in. Like the school hadn't even opened yet. And your father and my father spoke. And basically my dad was like, yeah, we're looking for someone who's going to keep her straight line.
Right.
Because, kids can be kids, right? Kids get out of line. Kids do things. But not that I was a bad kid, but, kids.
And this is 1991?
This is 1991.
Yeah.
So after he spoke to Master Joe, your father, he said, this guy is for me, right? So it was my dad who made the choice of the school. It wasn't really me. I mean, I walked past. I said, oh, yeah, look, martial arts school. But my dad made the choice after speaking to your dad. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started there. So your dad immediately, like, for some reason, I don't know, I feel like he took to me. Uh-huh. I don't know what it was. Maybe because he saw the passion that I had for it. Maybe because he saw the love that I had for it. I mean, I put my whole energy, my whole soul into it. And I think he saw that. And I think your dad was one of the few people that I knew at the time who felt that they should empower women to do more. Mm-hmm. Your dad was a strong proponent of that.
Yes.
With your sister, with me, with all the women in the school. Mm-hmm. Your dad pushed us harder than he pushed the guys. Oh, yeah. Because he wanted us to be better, right? He wanted us to do more and go further. Mm-hmm. So I felt that. And
well, there was no
male, female.
No. There was no. Even when it came to sparring.
Oh no. There was no.
You're laughing, right? Because true story, Black Belt Way of Life audience. This woman right here across from me gave me some of my best beatings.
John still says he's afraid of me.
Right. But that was the thing, though. My dad didn't treat women differently than the men because, let's take this in the real world.
Correct.
The real world don't care who you are.
Right.
You're out on that street. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, big, small. It doesn't matter. Everyone's a target at the end of the day. So there was always that level playing field in the class. Correct. For instance, that wooden floor, everyone did knuckle push-ups. Oh, yeah. It didn't matter who you were.
Nope. We all did it, which is great. I mean, because he understood that, right? He understood that he shouldn't treat the women softer because when it comes to like you said, that real life scenario, that's going to put us at a disadvantage, right? If we don't take it upon ourselves to be, I don't want to say aggressive, but be able to protect ourselves, then the point is moot of martial arts, right? The whole point of martial arts is to be able to protect yourself in a situation. I mean, avoid the situation first and foremost. But if you get put into that situation, to be able to protect yourself, and we learned that the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at this picture right here, and then we'll take a nice little close up of it. You know, you got you standing right there, and then you got myself, and then you got my sister. You know, that was the front line.
Yep.
You know, and for some reason, this picture, I don't know how I ended up in the middle, because when we lined up, it was always you at the front, then my sister, because she's older than me.
That's correct.
And then it was me. That's the way the line always was. We were always in the front, you know, and for me, that was kind of a disadvantage. I wish I was in the back of the line.
Oh, you were in the front of the line for a reason.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so the audience will hear this, and the audience will hear this. You know, believe it or not, in the beginning especially, I wasn't the most serious one.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no, you were a clown. You were outright clown, straight up clown. Your father beat you more than anyone in that entire class. That stick, I don't know how many sticks he broke on you, but yeah, you were a clown. Definitely a clown.
It was definitely tough. There was...
Oh, man.
I don't know why. I just couldn't get the smile off of my face. Maybe because I loved it so much. Maybe I was there so much. Like, I think I was more comfortable in the school, believe it or not, than I was in my own home.
Right.
So I just loved being there so much. But unfortunately...
But you were young.
I was
young.
I was a kid.
11, 10,
I was a kid. Yeah, I was 11, 12 years old, you know, amongst grown-ups.
I mean... We weren't really grown-ups either. Most of us were teenagers. I mean, there were definitely some older people in there, but the adult class, I can put that in air quotes, was mostly teenagers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that in and of itself speaks volumes. I mean, today, I don't know if that dynamic exists like that.
No, the dynamic really, now it's kids first.
Right.
My kids' classes are big. You know, my adult class, I have to say, I do have, and obviously you're a part of it. Sure. I do have a good adult program, but that teenager year lacks, you know, because their head is other places. They want to go do other things, you know, and they don't really, unless you're a hardcore competitor or you're just, you know, a special individual, you're not in the school much, you know.
And there was a core group of us who were in that school all the time.
That first generation of students,
We lived in that school. I mean, I want to say, I was there like 7 days a week. And we were there for hours a day. It wasn't like we just went to class and went home.
Exactly.
Hours and hours we spent in that school.
Yeah. There was no time.
No.
Like class started, class started, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night, but nobody got there at 8.
No.
Everyone got there early.
No, everyone was there at 6, 7 o'clock.
Exactly.
And they stayed. They stayed after 8, 10 o'clock. We would practice.
Hours and hours and hours and hours. Sure. And you brought up an interesting point. You said 7 days a week.
Yes.
Because on day 7, we were either at the park, we were at the beach, we were training someplace.
That's correct.
You know, we were always training. 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, special training.
Right.
Get up. I love the ones that we went upstate were my favorite. That was my favorite. Like, we were unsupervised, aside from your father and whatever black belts were. There was no parental guidance at all, and the things they did to us, and not that any of it was illegal, but I just want to put that out there for the audience. There was nothing illegal going on. But when you take a bunch of, you know, teenage kids and you put them upstate in a mountain away from the rest of society, and all we had to do was train. We trained from morning
till night,
4 o'clock in the morning, all the way to the nighttime. Then we did those like security shifts where we walk around the lake. Your dad in the van behind, so we be running up this hill, and this hill was like this, steep, and we're all dogged out. We're like running up this hill, and your father's in the van. I don't know if it was Mr. Taormino or I think it was Mr. Taormino. Yeah. Run faster!
And we're getting chased by a van. There's all true stories.
No, they were in front of us.
Yeah,
and we're going up this hill, and they're sitting in the van, hanging out the back of the van, just screaming at us to run faster and go harder. Beating us in the woods with sticks. It was great.
Chopping trees.
Like,
I think about it now. I actually had this conversation a while back with someone. I was like, whatever we were told, we did.
Yes.
We didn't question.
No.
It was Go do that. Yes, sir. You know, it was that, I like to call it blind faith. You know, looking back on it, did we really need to chop those trees? Those trees weren't going anywhere.
No.
You know, but it made us tough.
Correct.
It made us strong.
Correct.
You know, mind and body, what we talk about. You know, but like I said, there was no question. We were told to do it. We did it. You know, and that's just the way it was. You know, because there was that, and I've spoke about this on past episodes with guests, that especially that grew up in the old times. Class was physical.
Oh yeah.
You know, punishments with the stick, like I spoke about with John, I spoke about with Sensei Charles or Sensei Kai Leong. You know, a lot of it we talk about how to do with language. My father's language was special when he taught class, you know, with that broken English. Mm-hmm. And I feel a lot of it was done because maybe out of frustration, they couldn't get their point across.
Right.
You know, so that's why we got hit with sticks.
Right.
Because for the most part, I mean, okay, maybe I'm an exception because I got hit for laughing and smiling.
Every class, you got hit with every single class without
There wasn't a class I didn't get hit, you know, but for the most part, we got hit because we didn't try hard enough.
Correct. But I think part of the hitting too was how we reacted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of that reflex, they wanted to build into us a reflex not to respond when you're attacked. So like it's like in a real world scenario, when someone comes at you, if your immediate reaction is to flinch away, then you cannot defend yourself.
Sure.
So how you respond to that whack is something that they're being programmed to not react.
Of course.
Right? So I remember when we was training with Master Lee up in the woods, and we were standing outside, and it was freezing outside. We were standing outside in our uniforms. We all lined up in, Jumbi position. He went and ripped a branch off the tree, and he whacked all of us in the back of the legs with
One
it.
shot,
because he wanted to see if we reacted. And if we reacted, he whacked us again.
Yeah.
That sort of fortitude, that strength of character, strength of just to be able to I don't want to say take it, but to not have to respond in a way that's going to be to your detriment later on.
Sure.
So I think that was a big part of the actual hitting. It wasn't it wasn't trying to hurt us. It was more just trying.
But
to
it's also
program
building a tolerance of pain.
Absolutely. You got more tolerance to pain.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you could hit me with God knows what. I'm not going anywhere.
Correct. Well, I mean, again, that plays itself out. If you are in a real situation and you get hit, is your immediate reaction going to be to crumble away or to fall away? And no, I mean, you can take a shot.
Sure.
You're able then to defend yourself. So there was a lot that went into that, other than just the discipline piece of it. But it was a lot of discipline.
A lot of discipline. More discipline than anything else.
Oh man.
But now here's the thing. That kind of training built, I almost want to put it like a surreal focus, like laser sharp focus.
Correct.
And this is something John talks about all the time. This is how our technique was built, because the focus, like people have asked me, why don't I, especially like when older guys from back in the day come inside the school, they're like, Jojo, why don't you teach this? I'm like, because they're not built like that anymore.
Right.
Why don't you teach this? Because I can't sit there and do the same blocking motion for 45 minutes. One kick for an hour.
Correct.
3-step side kick. Are you kidding me? I can't do that.
No.
I won't. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'll have a business.
No,
I'm not saying I water it down, because you see how I am with the kids. I do keep the tradition alive, but I can't do it the way we did it, 30 years ago.
No.
I can't do that.
No, it's a different world. And listen, and not to say it's right or wrong, right? You have to adapt. Right?
100%. We talk about that all the time.
Change, you can see either change as a detriment, or you can see change as a challenge to do more, do better. So you have to adapt. If you don't adapt, then obviously, like you said, you probably wouldn't have a school.
Yeah.
Because The temperament is different today, and the rules are different today. You can't even look at these kids sideways wrong sometimes, so it is a different environment that we live in, and you have to, at the end of the day, you still have to have a business to run.
Sure.
So but there's still ways you can find that intrinsic value and impart that upon the kids without doing it the way we did it with, doing the high block for an hour and a half in class, in the same position, in horse stance for 45 minutes.
Right.
Those are things that worked for us, right? Those aren't the same things that are going to work for these kids today, but that doesn't mean that the lesson is of less value. Yeah. It's just different.
I miss it.
I do too.
I'm not gonna lie.
I do too.
I miss it.
I'm
in class sometimes at night, and I'm like, and I just sometimes look at people, and I'm like, man, I want to hit you with that stick, like I, and I can't.
Oh, of
I
course.
can't.
Yeah.
And I do have parents to this day come up to me that are of my age or a little younger or a little older, and they tell me like, Master Joe, my son gets out of line. You have my permission. I'm like, thank you, but I don't know who else is watching.
Sure.
Of
course.
Thank you, but I can't.
Right.
But believe me, the bamboo stick is there.
Oh, I know.
And I look at it sometimes.
I shake it at people sometimes. That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah. So getting back to it. So now you're training hard in the school. We're preparing, to become the first black belts under my father. Speak to the audience about that time and that period.
Man, that was for me. That's some of my favorite memories of my life growing up, or in that school. I brought this belt because this belt was the black belt that I got. This belt was in the school.
Yeah.
So every day I walked into the school, and this belt was there. So for me, this was like the dream that I was trying to attain. And every day that I was there, it was a reminder.
Yeah.
So when your father gave me this belt on my, promotion day.
April 1st, 1994.
That's correct. So when he gave me that belt from the school itself, I mean, that meant so much to me because I knew that every day when I went in there, because I worked there too. I worked there for years. So I was teaching kids. I was, helping your father in school. So having to see that every single day and having something to aspire to and something to reach for, it's some of the best times of my life. So I will have this belt until the day I die.
Right. It's going to go with you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's your job to bury me with the belt.
100. We'll see who goes first.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right, Jojo.
Because I ain't going nowhere.
I know. I might, but girl's old.
No, stop it. So, I mean, and for me, and this is something I explain to people when you come inside the school. Yes, I continued training. I never stopped. I always trained. I reached, higher levels of black belt. But when you walk into the school, I always make it a point to tell people that when I got my first degree black belt with you, you were always ahead of me.
Right.
And that always sets you apart. And I don't forget those things. Even when I'm in front of the room teaching and I look at you, I'm like, I always see myself over to your left. I'll never lose that. That's just the humble side of me.
Respect.
We don't forget where we came from. I looked up to you because you were in front of me in line. And this is something I explain to students about the responsibility of being on that front line. The students are behind you.
Correct.
I'll never forget one of the worst beatings I got. And this was actually when I had stopped goofing off, when I had stopped smiling all the time in class. This is past that. I'm in the front and I'm doing well, and I'm kicking super high and I'm moving super fast. Next thing you know, Jojo, push up. I'm like, oh shoot, and I dropped down and I just started getting hit with the stick, and I got back up like we all did, and we just kept going. But for the first time, I had to ask why I got hit.
Right.
I was scared, man. I was so petrified of going in that office. And I walk in there and I'm like, shoot, I'm going to get hit just for asking. But I asked anyway. I was like, sir, why'd I get hit? And I was told because the person behind me wasn't trying hard enough. And because I was in front, I was a bad example. Correct. I should have tried harder.
Right.
I looked, I was like, thank you, sir. And
he left. Jetted out of there.
Bounced, jetted out of there because I'm like, man, I don't want to get hit no more. But
you set the tone for the whole class.
Exactly.
Right? You carry the energy. You set that entire. You set the example. If you're in the beginning up in the class and you're just gonna the entire energy of that entire room is gonna drop.
Sure.
So you have to be at your highest level when you're at the front of that class. So that's why you get in.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm looking at this picture and we're on that front line, and I'm a young kid and I got grown men behind me.
Yeah.
There's people older than us behind us. It's a responsibility that I want today's generation to understand. I feel like sometimes they just feel like they have a shiny toy around their waist. Like they have this shiny, beautiful higher belt. Like they don't understand the real responsibility behind being in the front of that line. But we understood it.
Correct.
We were made to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
And again, we bring it back, leading by example, So time passes. I reopened the school, now I'm on my own and you come back and it's like we never missed a beat.
No. Which is why I tell people, unfortunately I was not able to train for a long time. I had whole other things going on in my life. I had to get my career life. Unfortunately, Taekwondo was not my life. I mean, as much as it's my passion, I had to do other things. So when I did come back, it was like you said, and I tell people this all the time. And this is the sort of thing that that your father instilled in you. Like when you have that sort of family environment and you're that close to people, when I came back, there was no judgment. There was no questions. It was like we never stopped.
We never stopped training.
We just picked up from the day that we stopped training, so many years ago. And we were just able to carry on. And, to have that kind of environment is very special. So, the students in your school are very lucky to have someone like you who learned those lessons from his father to be able to.
Because I don't know any other way.
Absolutely.
If it's not broke, why fix it?
100%.
Yeah.
And that passion that your father had, you very much have it as well. And you can see that, like it shows in the school.
Because I catch myself sometimes, I sound like my dad sometimes.
Sometimes when I hear you, it makes me laugh. And I'm like, oh man, this sounds just like Master Joe. Now, when I say Master Joe, I mean your father, obviously, but I hear you say things sometimes. It's like, oh man, that was just Master Joe just ringing in my ears right now.
What was it? The other day, it was, who's that? Brian, who's that?
Brian.
And I looked at him and I yelled at him. I go, what's the matter for you? I'm like, and I just stopped. I'm like, what's the matter with you? But that's my dad's talk.
Oh yeah.
That's my dad's talk. A lot of times in the kickboxing class, I was counting. Obviously in kickboxing, I don't count in Korean.
Correct.
And I'm like 1, 2, 3, and someone came up to me like, Master Joe, why you say tree instead of 3? Can you not pronounce the number 3? And I'm like, I could pronounce 3, but it just comes out tree. Because that was my father's talk, and that was his accent. So I catch myself, in that. But again, it was like, that's how I was etched. That's how I was made, and I can't hit the people with the stick anymore. I can't, man, so much.
It's but that again, your father had that power on people. Like he was a memorable guy, and I remember when he passed away, and when we had the service, and so many people were there, and you looked at me, and you're like, how so many people? I said, listen, your father was loved. Like he made an impression on
So you're taking my next question out.
He
You know,
made an
this
impression on
because
people.
you were. This is something I was going to bring up. You know, when obviously you were there on the front line when my father passed. You know, and yeah, it was the amount of people there were incredible. You know, I'll never forget. You know, on the first night of the wake, I looked over. I looked over to my sister. A lot of it is a blur because obviously I was on autopilot.
Sure.
You know, and I looked over. I want to say it was my sister. And I looked over to her and I was like, when is this line ever going to stop? And then later that night, you know, one of my close friends, you know, reached out to me and he was like, Joe, I waited outside for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's how long I was online. He goes, the line wrapped around the block.
Yeah. I
was like, whoa. You know, but I'm going to try not to get too choked up when I bring this up. If it happens, it happens. Oh, well. You know, so the conversation the next day after the wake with my mom was, I was like, Mom, you know, who's going to bring Dad inside the church? You know, who's going to walk the casket? My mom didn't even hesitate. And my mom looked at me and says, you go tell the original black belts.
Yeah.
You go tell the original students. He goes, your father wouldn't have it any other way. You know, that's the part where, you know, having you on this podcast is very different than everyone else because, you know, you were part of his greatest memories and you were part of the foundation that built what the New York Black Belt Center is today. If it wasn't for this here, there would be I would have never grown the love that I did for Taekwondo. Mm-hmm. That whole time was surreal. And it through pain, we built strength.
We built each other.
Oh yeah,
all of us. I mean, even though, you know, some of us aren't always in touch today or mm-hmm. close, as soon as we see each other, when we do see each other, immediately there's the bond there. Yeah. Because we spent so much time together and we had experiences that other people don't experience together.
Mm-hmm. They don't understand.
They don't understand.
And it's okay.
It's fine.
They don't need to.
Those bonds that we built and those things that we did in that school made us who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
We would not be the people we are. I certainly would not be the person I am today. The perseverance that I learned from being in that school, the fortitude that I learned from being in that school, the fact that, you know, life will knock you down. Life will teach you lessons, and they're not all good lessons. Mm-hmm. But to be able to stand back up and to be able to move yourself forward is something that was learned in that school. So those are life lessons that you will never take away from people. Mm-hmm. So that is the true power of martial arts, and your father was able to capture that and give that to all of us. And I guarantee that if you ask any person in this picture, they would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
And that was the true power of your father. And he had that influence on so many people. And he was a very loved man.
Oofa. It's
the best.
Yeah.
The best.
You know, it's but like I said, you know, it's hard sometimes to explain that to the generation of today. But there are some that get it.
Of course.
There are some. You see it in the school today. There are some that really, truly understand it. Because at the end of the day, I'm just paying it forward.
Correct.
You know, and that's what we're all about. And so now we got today's generation of Taekwondo students, and we don't even have to get into competition, you know, just martial artists. What do you feel today's, you know, I don't want to generalize, but what do you feel they lack the most?
I don't want to say all of them, but I think the passion is not there. Mm-hmm. Now there are some students that have that passion, right? But I think that, and I don't know if it was just because of the way that we maybe we were like just a golden group. I don't know. That could very well be that the universe aligned for us the way we were at the time. But we all had passion. We all loved it. Like, we volunteered to sleep in the school. We volunteered to stay and train for 6, 8, 10 hours.
Because you look at this, there wasn't a single person in that room that didn't give a 100% effort.
Correct.
Like, there was no, hey, how about you key out?
Correct.
You know, how about you punch? There wasn't a single person.
Right. Like you said, we came early, we left late. I don't see a lot of that today because I just don't think that level of passion. And again, maybe it's just the way, the video game environment that these kids grow up in today, or the lack of attention span, or what it is. But there just doesn't seem to be that longing or that lingering passion to continue to stay, to put in the time, to put in the effort. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's just because their parents sent them there and that's what they're just doing what their parents told them to do. But I mean, like I said, it's not all of them, but there's definitely that. I feel like that's a missing element.
No, I mean, like, if I could do something different? Because now I'm going to ask you, as, like I said, I know I'm above you in the food chain, but I'm always humble to ask.
Beat them all.
You could bail me out?
Yes. No, I don't think it's anything that you're doing necessarily. I just, again, I think
it's more of a society thing.
It's more of a societal thing, right? Where, martial arts too has become very franchised. I feel it's a bit watered down, right? So when we were going, it was more, martial arts was not the industry that it is today.
Yeah. It wasn't on every street corner.
No, and it wasn't franchises, and it wasn't, pay your way to get to the next promotion and just feed kids through this mechanism of promotion and belts. And, okay, 2 years you have your black belt, but do you really even know how to throw a front kick? Kind of. So I think it's been more capitalized and it's been more franchised. So I think that's watered down,
of course,
the actual concept of what martial arts is.
There's a school on every other corner.
Correct. So I think that it's kind of gone a little bit loose from that perspective, but because it has become a business model for a lot of people, instead of actually being true martial arts. But I think that you maintain that in your school. If I see that other schools and I see how they do things and I see how you do things, you keep a more traditional sense in that regard, where it's not just a money supply for promotion tests and for things. You care about the kids actually learning something. So that is a huge difference, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy.
No,
it's tough. It's tough. It's tough on these streets, the concrete jungle. It's tough. But I can't change, again, going back to what was created in 1991, 1992. I can't change. I would be false advertising.
Correct.
I wouldn't.
Right. Again, it goes back to having to adapt and to change and, and grow. Like I said, it's not better or worse a lot of the time. It's just different. And you have to be able to find those differences and make them work to your advantage and make them work to the student's advantage so that they're actually learning something from what it is that's happening, even though it may not be the same variance of what we understood and what we learned. But there's still value there.
Yeah. So now, sitting here right now, you actually haven't trained for quite a bit.
Got the broken wing.
Yeah. How is that? That, and I tell people all the time, getting older is tough.
Oh man.
Because again, you brought up how we trained for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we came back the next day and did the same exact thing. I don't remember being sore.
Never.
You know what I mean? I don't.
If you would have asked me at that time if I even felt my body ever at any time, the answer was no. I mean, unless it was getting injured by someone. I never felt the training part of that in my body. But, as you get older, your body changes.
Of course.
There are things that you can't do that you used to be able to do. And that's okay, right?
100%.
there's no reason to do those things anymore. But you have to adapt even for that. I mean, your injury comes easier. Repair takes longer.
Yes.
Right? Things don't heal as quickly as they used to.
For sure.
You have to be careful sometimes, just moving the wrong way. I mean, you don't realize it, but like you said, when we were that age, we never felt like now. It's like, oh, I feel my knees. I never felt knees. What were knees?
Right. No, I think about those times, and like I said, I don't remember ever being sore. No. I don't remember, I got to sit out, my hamstring, my back, never. Now it's like, a lot of times, obviously, I'll let out a little secret. I'll teach sidekick.
Yeah,
I'll demonstrate it on my right side.
Oh, I know. I've noticed.
Why? Because my left hip is shot.
It's not there. Yeah.
It's not there. Can I throw it? Yes, I could throw it one time, but my right leg is still there. Little things like that. I won't show it.
No,
but I know inside I can't. Right. You'll catch on to it.
Right.
Others won't. Talk to the audience about getting older, but still wanting to progress.
Correct.
In the martial art. Because every Master Joe, you're Master Alana, but at the end of the day, we're students first before anything.
That's correct.
Talk to the audience about being an older martial artist and how that we continue our journey.
Every day's learning experience,
yeah.
Right? You have to learn what your body wants. And you have to learn how to adjust to those things. We try to push ourselves because in our minds, we still think we're 20 years old, all right? The time. Before you know it, rotator repair 1, rotator repair 2.
The mind moves faster than the body.
Yes, so... But every day is the learning experience because then you have to change what your style, right? Doesn't mean you can do less in the sense of your ability. It's just less in the sense of your physical ability, right? But you have to be able to then transition into a new style, a new way of doing things. And you have to be able to accept that. Because if you don't accept it, you're going to end up injured all the time.
And that's the hard part. I've noticed for a lot of adults.
The difficult part.
Yes. A lot of adults that come back after not doing it for so long, within a week, they get hurt.
Correct. We've all done it. We've all been there, right? Because again, your body, you don't know what your body's used to doing anymore, especially if you stopped doing it and came back to do it. And then, suddenly you throw those kicks and you think you're throwing them the same way you did when you're in your 20s.
Right.
And then something goes pop. And then you're like, uh-oh.
Right. So, that happened to a lot of the guys when they came back, if you remember.
100%. It happened to me.
Yeah.
I blew the hamstring, as soon as I came back. So you have to be able to adapt to your new life in your new body. But that doesn't mean you're worse, right? So you do different things.
Yeah.
You try different techniques. You move in different ways. Listen, maybe you can't do competition fighting anymore. That's okay. Right? I mean, I love to fight. That was one of the things that I loved doing when we were young is fighting.
Yeah.
I can't really do it that much anymore. Though,
I still have night tremors about it.
You and John Rodriguez.
Right.
No, but, but I don't need to competition fight. I'm at that age where I'm okay with it. I don't need to go into competitions and do that to my body because my body doesn't want it. So I concentrate more on the technique. I concentrate more on the form. Every day is, again, a learning experience. Just because you're a black belt or a 4th-degree black belt or 3rd-degree black belt, whatever it is, that doesn't mean you stop learning.
Of course.
You learn new things and you learn new ways. So, and that's how you have to carry on. Because if you try to continue to be the person you were when you were in your 20s, you're going to be out on your back pretty quickly.
Sure. And then you're not going to be training anymore. No. And then you're going to,
Yeah. You either stop doing it because you've hurt yourself so much, or you change the way you've done things and do different things. Listen, the passion's still there. I love forms. I love doing the forms, right? Is it the same as the fighting? No. But it's the same passion that I have for the martial arts.
Sure.
So that's where then I focus, right? I want to focus on the technique. I want to focus on understanding why I'm doing the forms, how they're working, where's the angles, So it's just a transition, and but you have to make that transition.
So now, would you say you just had rotator cuff surgery?
Correct.
Would you say Taekwondo is a motivation for you to heal and get back on the mat?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's the first thing I talked to the doctor about. Was like, when can I go back to Taekwondo? Right. And that's when he's like, well, I was like, listen, high impact sport is my life. You can't take that away from me. So you have to give me a goal for when I'm going to be able to get back to that.
Sure.
Because if you tell me that I can't go back to that, you're going to just cut my knees out from under me. You're just going to take it all. Yeah, exactly. You're going to destroy me as a person. Now, can I go as much as I would love to go, even when I'm in good health? No, I can't. But I enjoy every moment that I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's and this goes back to something my father used to always say: we never stop training.
No.
Even if we're not on the mat.
Correct.
We never stop training.
Correct.
Like the thought, obviously because I run a school, but I could honestly say I know, and you're one of them, I know the people that not a day passes that you don't think about it.
Oh, no.
No matter where you are. You could be on a Caribbean island. You could be on an island.
I throw so many rando sidekicks, and I'm sure people look at me, but I don't care. You know what?
Right.
Because at the moment in my mind, that's what I'm thinking about. So I have to do it.
Right.
But I don't care. You know what? Come over here.
Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Let me show you something.
Yeah, no, it's constantly something you think about. Because you love it. I mean, it's something that I think about every day. I think about, a form, or, I replay it in my mind, or, a technique, or it's always there. It's always there. It's never left.
Nice little question for you right now. If you could say something to my dad right now in regards to life, where you are today, what do you think you would tell him?
I would just tell him that, thank you for everything that you've done for me, and that I love you. I mean, oh man. No, he was, just thank you. I cannot express how much I appreciate what that man has done for me, and who he's made me as a person.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Oh, you kill me with that one.
No, because like I said, of all the guests I've had on this podcast, my first intro episode, I got into it about my dad, and then John came in and I got about my dad. But I really want the audience to understand, when they walk into the New York Black Belt Center, where that seed came from, that sprouted where we are today, coming up on 15 years.
In New York Black Belt Center, yeah.
15 years. August, I'll be open 15 years. But the start of that school, I started, in 1983 at the Moonsung Lee Taekwondo Institute, in Astoria. But the love and passion was here.
Oh, yeah.
Here in 1991 in that little school in Whitestone.
Absolutely. I mean, it said Moonsung Lee on the building or on the window, but it was Master Joe Lupo School.
Yeah.
And no one questioned that.
Sure.
Right? Because it was his passion, it was his love that made that school what it was and made us all who we are today.
Yeah. It's I really hope the audience grasps that, understands it, appreciates it.
Yeah.
And, moving forward in their Taekwondo journey could understand, as I like to put it, the method to my madness.
100%.
Because it was instilled in us.
Yeah.
So being that we touched upon it, I want to, lighten up the mood as we end the night. Give a funny story. Throw me under the bus right now.
Man. So the best story, and it wasn't just about you.
Yeah.
But you were a pretty regular flatulator in school. Do you remember the special training with the bananas?
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we did an overnight special training in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Your father, we locked all the doors. And
Yes.
we had to sleep in the school. And I think we slept next door, right? Because it was a small space that we all had to sleep in. And your father, I love him, but God bless him. But he decides to give us all bananas.
Yeah. Before going to bed.
Before we went to bed. Yo, we steamed up those windows so bad.
Right.
Like, the air
It was just
was running out of the room.
our heads were underneath those blankets and sleeping bags.
I cannot tell you, we could have bottled that and sold it to a wartime situation because it was so bad.
Right.
And then we all started laughing because it smelled so bad. And then your father's yelling at us to go to sleep.
And we got in trouble for that. And we
just, oh man. But yeah, you were a regular flatulator in school for sure. I mean, that was something that was like your trademark.
Right. Happens.
Hey, listen, it happened to you more than most. Jojo! Right? Yeah, but no, that was it was a great memory, but that was one of the most hilarious times was that night we slept with those freaking bananas, man. Oh, your dad. Shut up, go to sleep.
So we paid the price the next day. I know I did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we all did. We were up all night farting.
We all paid the price. But it was a beautiful price to pay because it built who we are today.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
So with that being said, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It's
been great.
Awesome.
It's been great.
Awesome.
It's been a great journey together.
Yes. And
All
it's a
these
journey
years.
and it's a journey that is going to keep going.
That's correct.
It's going to keep going.
No, this is for life.
So hurry up. Go talk to this doctor. I'm going to talk to you like my dad. Go tell this guy to hurry up, fix this shoulder, and let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. So with that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. Make sure to check out our sponsor, Joe Ferrone of Whitecurt Realty, our official apparel company, Best Martial Arts, Muto USA, our awesome shoe over here. You know you need a pair.
Man,
what size are you? What size are you?
Size 8.
Size 8. Make it happen, my man. Size 8. Let's go.
Ladies.
That's it. Get it done. Kick fit. You know, awesome shoe here. BBWOL at checkout for a nice little discount. In the words my father always said, it's extra special tonight. Black belt is worn around your heart, never your waist.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. A Black Belt Way of Life was produced by Press Record Studios.